When a homeless black girl named Layla began dancing in the streets for coins, she never imagined her twirls would catch the eye of a millionaire's wheelchair-bound son. What started as a silent connection between two broken souls soon turned into a breathtaking miracle that not only changed their lives but healed them both. Cold wind swept across the downtown plaza as Layla spun to the soft hum of her broken Bluetooth speaker. Her movements were graceful, her rhythm flawless, but the world barely noticed. People passed her by, dropping coins like afterthoughts. To them, she was just another homeless girl trying to survive. Layla had once dreamed of being a professional dancer. Before her mother passed away from cancer, she used to say, "Baby, when you dance, the world listens to your soul." Those words kept Layla alive through nights under bridges and mornings without food. Every day she practiced near the marble fountain outside Elliott and Cho Industries, one of the city's largest corporations. She didn't know who owned the building, only that its tall glass walls reflected her every pirouette. Sometimes she'd imagine the building itself was her audience, applauding her silent performances. But one morning, as snowflakes fell softly around her, a boy's voice stopped her mid-step. "Why do you dance when no one's watching?" Layla turned and saw a boy sitting in a sleek electric wheelchair. He looked about her age, maybe 16, with sharp blue eyes and dark hair that framed his pale face. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the controls of his chair. "I dance because it's the only time I forget I'm homeless," she said softly. The boy smiled faintly. "And I watch because it's the only time I forget I can't walk." That moment hung in the air like a delicate note. Layla knelt beside him. "I'm Layla." "Ethan," he replied. Over the next few days, Ethan began visiting her spot every morning. He'd watch from his wheelchair as she practiced, sometimes humming softly or clapping off beat. Slowly, their friendship blossomed. Ethan told her about his father, Richard Elliott, the CEO of Elliott & Co., a man too busy to look up from his phone, too consumed by meetings to notice his son's loneliness. Ethan had been in a car accident 3 years ago that left him paralyzed from the waist down. Since then, his father had built a fortress of money around him but forgot to give him joy. Layla became that missing spark. She started teaching Ethan how to move with rhythm, using his upper body, rolling his wheelchair in time with her steps, lifting his arms in smooth arcs. To their surprise, passers-by began stopping to watch. People smiled, clapped, and even filmed them. For the first time, Ethan felt alive again. And for Layla, it wasn't just dance anymore, it was hope taking form. One chilly afternoon, Richard Elliott stepped out of his office to take a private call when he noticed a small crowd gathered near the fountain. Curious, he walked closer and froze. There was his son, laughing, moving his wheelchair, in perfect rhythm with a young homeless girl who spun gracefully beside him. At first, Richard's face hardened. What was his son doing out here? Who was this girl? He stormed forward, but before he could call out, he heard Ethan's laughter, a sound he hadn't heard in years. The sight stopped him cold. Layla noticed the man in the expensive suit and instantly backed away, her instinct warning her of trouble. But Ethan turned, saw his father, and said excitedly, "Dad, you have to see this. Layla's teaching me to dance." Richard's expression softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Ethan, it's freezing out here. You shouldn't be around strangers." Layla's heart sank. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean any harm." But Ethan refused to leave. "She's my friend. You don't even know what she's done for me." The crowd murmured. Some even filmed the heated exchange. Richard, aware of the attention, sighed and gently pushed Ethan's chair away. "Let's go home," he said quietly. Layla watched them leave, her heart heavy. That night, Ethan refused to speak to his father. "You only see what people are worth, not who they are." He yelled, "Layla's got more strength than anyone I know." Haunted by his son's words, Richard couldn't sleep. He called his assistant the next morning. "Find out everything about that girl who dances outside my building." When he learned, Layla had been homeless since her mother's death and had been living in a shelter. Something inside him shifted. He remembered his own late wife, who had once been a dancer. The memory of her gentle grace brought tears to his eyes for the first time in years. 2 days later, Layla was dancing again when a black limousine pulled up beside the fountain. Richard stepped out, holding a small envelope. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "You gave my son something I couldn't enjoy." Layla blinked, unsure what to say. Richard handed her the envelope. Inside was an offer letter and invitation to train at the Elliott Foundation, School of Performing Arts, fully sponsored. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," Richard said firmly. "Because my son wants you to." Just then, Ethan rolled up beside him, grinning. "Told you she'd say no at first." Layla laughed through her tears. "You tricked me." "Only a little," Ethan said. "You deserve this." From that day on, Layla trained at the academy. She continued dancing with Ethan every week, even visiting him at home to choreograph special routines he could perform from his wheelchair. The internet began to take notice. Their street performances had gone viral under the title, "The Dancing Miracle." People all over the world were moved by their story of friendship and courage. Months passed and Layla's talent flourished. She was invited to perform at the city's annual charity gala, a grand event hosted by none other than Richard Elliott himself. Ethan convinced his father to let him perform alongside her. "Just one dance," he insisted. "I want to show the world what she taught me." When the night arrived, the ballroom glowed with chandeliers and the soft hum of violins. Wealthy guests filled the hall, unaware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The lights dimmed. A spotlight fell on Layla as soft piano music began. She moved with elegance, each motion telling a story of struggle and triumph. Then, from the corner of the stage, Ethan rolled in, his wheelchair glowing faintly under the lights. The audience gasped as the two moved together, his arms following her rhythm, his wheels spinning gracefully. Layla twirled around him like a whisper of wind. But then something unbelievable happened. As Ethan lifted his arms for the final pose, his body trembled, then his right leg shifted. Slowly, unsteadily, he placed his foot on the floor. Layla froze, eyes wide. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Richard stood from his seat, unable to believe what he was seeing. Ethan, with tears streaming down his face, stood up. For the first time in 3 years, he took one shaky step toward Layla as she caught him in her arms. The audience erupted into applause, many weeping openly. Cameras flashed, capturing the miracle moment that would soon circle the globe. Doctors later called it a neurological breakthrough triggered by emotional and physical stimulation. But Layla called it something simpler: faith in motion. After that night, everything changed. Ethan began walking with the help of therapy, and Layla became a household name. But instead of chasing fame, she partnered with Richard to open a new dance program for underprivileged youth, the Movement of Hope. It offered free lessons for kids from shelters and hospitals, blending dance with physical therapy and self-expression. Every weekend, Layla and Ethan taught together, reminding everyone that miracles aren't always about magic. They're about the courage to believe in impossible things. As they watched the children laugh and dance, Ethan smiled at Layla. "You saved me, you know." She shook her head gently. "No, Ethan, we saved each other." And somewhere in that small dance studio, filled with music and laughter, two souls who once felt broken had found the rhythm of miracles.